Hey there, welcome back. This week, I'm continuing to share with you the story of the arc of my time with Steve Hardison. And I just wanted to remind you that I'm telling you a story about me, but this is actually a story about you. So listen as if it were you and see what's different through your listening and what you really take away when you're listening in this way. So on the day of my actual meeting with the infamous Steve Hardison, I flew to Phoenix and I drove to his home where he does his coaching. Out front, I saw my flag flying from the flagpole. Each of his clients gets their own flag, and mine is the Lone Star State flag, which represents the state I live in. So when I pulled up, Steve met me as I was exiting my vehicle, and he invited me in, and we settled into his and Amy's warm and welcoming living room. I really want you to get the peace that emanated just from being in this space, because it's really important. It was created so intentionally. As I look back, I realized that. So we spoke for some time and about the world and about how so much of what is happening out there is being created from fear. He shared some stories of his neighbors and his interactions with people, and even the men who came to replace his windows that week. I want to tell you each and every story, but we're limited by time. So looking back, I can see now that he was creating himself. And that's what I want to share with you. That's what I want to underscore in this video so that you can really get how to create yourself. So I asked Steve, how do they not create from fear? Those people out there. And he responded, just stop creating it. Perhaps it wasn't quite a shout. Maybe it was. What I do know is that it stirred something inside of me. What awakened was a younger part of me, a more creative, carefree part of me, and an ancient part of me that does not believe in the BS of the world and all the fear that emanates from it. To be vulnerable with all of you, one of the things that I thought I was bringing to my Being With session was the idea that I was going to clear out that last little monster under my bed. It's the one, the one that keeps you from achieving your biggest goals. Yet at that moment, as the reverberations of this declaration, stop creating fear, still echoed in that space, I began to see that there was simply no monster under my bed. It's an illusion. I chose to create fear, but it isn't real. So after he created himself, Steve began to create the office, his office, which is just really a shed out back that he had converted. And I asked him, how did you make your office sacred? He explained he just started speaking it. He went on to share that once he spoke it, his clients started treating his office as sacred by doing things like taking off their shoes before entering and so on. And to be honest, I felt compelled to take off my own shoes, yet I did notice that Steve didn't. When we entered the sacred space of his office, I'm going to be honest with you, I felt emotional. I hadn't even really opened my eyes when I sat down on the couch, and I just literally and viscerally felt the miracles and transformations that had happened in that room. I could feel it in every cell of my body. I could feel the sacredness. I shared my reason for being there, which was spelled out on a plaque along the wall. When I die, I want to say that I used everything that I was given. Steve asked me, what takes my energy from living fully into that quote on the plaque? It's really simple. We all share this. It's our secrets. So once I shared what I thought my secret fears were, my true fear revealed itself. My true fear is of somehow causing harm should my dimmer switch be turned up to its brightest. I sat still then and listened to stories of how others were transformed and turned their own dimmer switches up in that office. And I listened as if they were stories about me, because they were and they are. And I listened to how Steve was being with them, believing in them, loving them, creating them. It's really simple here. Fear then does not get created. I really want you to take that in. When we create ourselves and each other, fear doesn't get created, because we fill up that hole where fear used to be. We fill it up with creation. So what happens when we stop this illusion that we have to be afraid? Energy returns to create what we want in the world. We live in a world of love. We create love everywhere we go. Miracles happen. Yes, I said it. Miracles, or even you can use the word magic if you like. And here's the thing, magic and miracles can look very large or very small. They can have a great impact on the outer world, or they can feel like an earthquake within us. Here's a couple of stories of my own earthquakes that can be your earthquakes if you allow them to be. If you want to be shaken up, shifted, and live without fear, if you have the courage and commitment to do so. So here's a couple of the stories. So after the session, I floated out of Steve's office into the gas station to fill up my rental car. It was at the gas station that I realized I had to be at my gate in about 30 minutes. I had not yet had a concept of space and time when I left Steve's office up until that moment. And yet, even though I had 30 minutes to get there, I knew I was at least 45 minutes to an hour from being able to reach the airport. I'm sure some of you may have had this experience in the past. But what was different here in this experience, what unfolded was a powerful experience of being with myself in all my humanness and the awakening that comes from choosing to stop creating fear and choose instead to create my life. I, of course, went driving in the wrong direction, got lost, and made it even more impossible to get to the airport on time through living my fear and creating my fear. At some point, I just stopped the car. I stopped myself and I called myself out on what was going on. The inner argument that ensued was quite comical, if I'm going to be really honest. It was also enlightening in that I could see my fear put on a dress of anxiety of, I have missed many flights before. And then the anxiety put on another dress of worry. If I don't hurry, I'm going to miss this flight, right? And over top of that, a coat of strategy was adorned, because that's wise, isn't it? I need a strategy to get to the airport. I need my thinking mind. The truth is, strategy is often just fear in a different outfit. That is the truth. And I'm not saying here the strategy is wrong, because I love strategy. And when my strategy comes from being, when your strategy comes from being, and you are intentionally creating it, strategy is leveled up, and it is incomprehensibly powerful. So once my fear was exposed, it actually dissipated, though it may have come back if I had not intentionally opened up that space for what I wanted to create, which was a peaceful travel experience with more than enough time. Somehow that picture, that creation, defied the space-time continuum, and I did make it to the airport. With so much time, I was even able to sit down and get dinner. It was so powerful. This experience has left me a believer of how it is possible to create anything when we stop creating fear. And I really want you to pause and just take that in. We can defy the space-time continuum when we stop creating fear, and we create what we want. We create love. So I'm going to share one more story with you. This is called the banana story. I'm including the second story here because it involves a human being, and I want you to get that this is for a very specific reason. Let's see if you can hear what it is for. So recently I was on a trip with my daughter to tour Miami University, and I went for a walk on the beach. When I returned, I stopped by the towel hut to get some water and noticed the person working was the same person who had been there all day the day before, all day and all evening the day before. I greeted her and asked her how she was doing. She explained she was okay, and I asked her what was going on. She shared that it was her day off, but she got called in because someone else called off work. Though she had worked 12 hours the day before, she knew there was no one else to work, so she went ahead and came on in. I told her I hoped she got some rest and went back to my room where I finished packing up. I noticed we still had some towels to return to the towel hut. And then my eyes lit on the bananas we had not yet eaten, and I knew we weren't going to be taken on the plane. In that moment, I saw a picture of myself giving the towel girl a banana. Not sure why the image came up. I pushed it down as weird and finished packing up. But as I set out to return the towels, I saw the bananas again and listened. My fear, "I'm weird" voice had me being small. And yet my newfound passion for spreading love had me grab that banana and drop it off at the towel hut. When the girl who was working there, the young woman who was working there, looked up and I mentioned how I brought her a banana, I was taken aback by her reaction. She looked so emotional. She even said, "You're going to make me cry." I was actually tearing up as I'm feeling this and remembering this. I responded by simply saying, "I know you're stuck here and can't leave today to get lunch. I just wanted to make sure you had a healthy snack." She responded again by looking down, this time like she was choking back her emotion. And she said, "You're making me cry." I sensed so deeply that she didn't feel seen sitting in that towel hut, and perhaps didn't even feel seen in her life in general. When did a simple banana, thinking of someone, create such raw emotion in another human being? Did this matter so much that she felt seen, heard, and loved? The answer is yes. This is what most human beings want: to feel seen, to be heard, to be loved. I'm now determined to level this up even further. Next time, I'm going to be even more forward and tell her how I appreciate her, how she matters inherently as a human being and matters to me and matters in her job. She belongs and is loved. That's my quest. I'm leveling up. If a banana does that to another human being, what would we create if 8 billion human beings saw, heard, and loved one another consistently? As I mentioned, this story is about you. And having said that, here's a challenge for you, okay? So number one, what about this story resonated with you? Did you feel you could relate to the girl behind the counter taking towels? Or did you feel you wanted to be the one to reach out to her? Just identify where you could stretch. This is number two. What's one thing you can do to create love with the people around you? And here's number three. Keep this simple. The very next person you interact with, really stop to see them for who they are and who they're being in this moment, or who they're afraid of being. Start conversations, listen to them, then listen to your heart. Champion them. Do something different. It can be something small or it can be something big, but do something that stretches you into creating them. Remember, creating fear is a choice, and you can choose to create fear or you can create love. It's up to you which path you follow. You are the creator of your own world and the world around you. We all are. Thanks for listening, and I will see you back here next week. Lots of love. Bye.